More than fame, the Beatles had faith. How to trust your ideas and bring your own dreams to life. Welcome to the No Bow Tie Show. I'm John No Bow Tie Swoboda, author, musician, and mindset mentor. Get ready to discover your unique edge, tools to conquer doubt, and the power to live with limitless joy. Faith is a key component when you're pursuing your own ideas. If you have a little bit of ability and a lot of faith, you may fail. But you brush yourself off, you pick yourself up, and you see the future that is now possible because you've learned how to push that ability and make it grow again. One of the great blockades that the Beatles faced early on was they were just another band. There were a lot of bands during that time that were fun and were causing girls to scream in the bars. But early on, it was a blockade that they were just another hard-working band. They had the advantage of their work ethic, but it just got them more of the same. And they were able to face that blockade, that resistance to success when Brian Epstein came in and put them in suits. The suit is what separated the Beatles from every other band out there. They weren't writing their own songs yet, so they didn't have that. It was the suits. It was the look of a team of being professional. And they had kind of the purple cow syndrome where the purple cow syndrome is where at a glance you notice something different about that what somebody's trying to sell you, and it sticks in your mind. And Brian Epstein knew that if you put them all in matching suits, that they would stand out from every other band in the world. They all had to agree with that vision, and when they bought into it is really when they became the Beatles, that he sold them the idea of what could become of their talents and their charisma and all of those sparkling things that we now look back and see as such an attractive sell to large masses of people. But once they bought into that, they knew that they were on a team and everything went toward the purpose of that team. You know a lot of people that have very little ability and do a lot with it. These are key stories through history of somebody who just worked hard and got a lot done because they had faith in that little bit of ability. Therefore, they were willing to take bigger risk. The amount of faith that you have and the amount of risk that you're willing to take are proportional. If you don't have one, it's ridiculous to take the other. For example, if you have little faith in your ability and you're extremely talented, you're probably going to have some degree of stage fright in life, and you're going to back off of opportunities. You're not going to say yes to the things that may cause failure, but that you can learn from to push you forward. Well, in being that you and I are not the Beatles, nor are we Taylor Swift or any of these fabulous breakthroughs in entertainment, the subject isn't being them. The subject is, what is the one thing in you that separates you out from other people, even if it is a small thing, that thing that you know you like about your uniqueness, that can grab and go. And it may be the tone of your voice. It may be the smile that you have. It may be something in the craft that you actually produce. Whatever that is, you can act on that small thing and it will grow. It doesn't mean you're going to be selling out crowds of 50,000 people at stadiums, but it does mean that you're going to engage in who you are and you have a better chance of, with that leap of faith, that you now have grown. And that leap of faith gets bigger, so does your risk. If you're concerned that your big idea doesn't seem realistic, pay attention to the small ideas, but be able to envision what the small idea can become. Because really, everything that's ever been done did start as a small idea, and sometimes what is confused as a big idea really is big excitement. That the small ideas, when you multiply what they can become, the momentum, it does create a vision of a larger idea, the one that you can be very excited about and to pursue. And what's really good about this, small ideas are achievable. The big ideas are really dreams and visions that keep you working, that keep you going, that make you get out of bed in the morning. But it's the small ideas that after you pour your cup of coffee and get to work, it's the small idea that you can grasp, nurture, and have a success in that day that you can tell it's going to lead you to a bigger idea. And that bigger idea will come. The bigger idea is usually a culmination of puzzle pieces. And the puzzle pieces can be people that you meet, ideas that you're working, and actual creative visions that you need to sketch out and complete yourself. But when they come together, you're going to be exhilarated and very proud of your efforts. The best way to cultivate a deep belief in your own ideas from the beginning is how it feels when you see that idea as a success. Be sure to ask yourself, what if this works out? And always face life this way, in the positive. What if this went well? What comes of that? And just take the smallest thing. Say you have an idea for a product, and you ask yourself, well, what if this does sell? What if this goes well? What will that lead to? Picture that. That's your bigger idea. And it's going to give you that energy that you need to pursue it. Now, this separates a lot of people. Becoming inspired is not the key. Nothing is more popular, nothing is more common than inspiration that gets ignored. You read a book, it's inspiring. You set the book down. You love that book. You go about your day. 3 days goes by. You've done nothing about that inspiration other than be inspired. And so the best thing that you know to do is get another book so you can read and become inspired. That's doing nothing for you. You have to take the inspiration from your ideas and work them. And if you fail, work what you learned from the failure. And using the Beatles as the example, just because they did have amazing success with their ideas, it was not an overnight sensation. They had a long road to haul. They were playing sometimes 8 hours in a day. And in the lull time, when they were just sitting around, they often became uninspired, and they would remind themselves of it. John Lennon would keep an eye on the other lads, and he would say, when he saw things getting down, he would say, "Where are we headed, boys?" And they were required to say, "To the top, Johnny." And they knew then they would do whatever they could to get to the top. You have got to be your own voice and know that when times are tough, you're going to ask yourself, where am I headed? And you're going to respond, to the top, whatever that definition of to the top is for you. It does not mean you're going to win the next Super Bowl. It does not mean you're going to run for president. But it does mean you're going to do the best with what you've got. One of the hard roads that a lot of people have to walk is when we get on the subject of discipline. And discipline, sometimes people say, unfortunately, discipline is a part of it. No, that's not unfortunately. It's fortunate. Discipline is where you're going to find the best of yourself and move it forward. Without it, you will not take the risks that are needed to take. And discipline, the more you use it, the bigger your faith will become. You'll get better at discipline. Just like anything you exercise will get stronger. Your discipline will become one of the most magical tools that you can pull out. And you'll begin to pull it out instantly, and you'll solve problems instantly and get to work and produce the magic that will complete your project so that your risk-taking and your faith do nothing but grow. There are those times where faith seems to be very transparent. You know that you have to have it, but you feel like you can't rely on it, and you lose it. Do the work anyway. And what you do is you're going to be the one in control of your faith. Instead of letting faith come to you and inspire you, you do the work anyway and just produce evidence that you believe in the project or you believe in your idea, and that faith will come back. I've been through it so many times. If I'm an expert at anything, it's losing faith. But I'm also an expert at regaining the faith by following through on what I said I was going to do. one really good policy that you can have with yourself is walk your talk. If you say you're going to do something, do it even in the face of losing faith, because then you will rejuve, you'll multiply the energies, and it will come back to you, and you'll be so proud of yourself because when the opportunity knocks on your door, you will be prepared to say yes. As you till that soil of your ideas, there is going to come a time when collaboration is necessary. And we know this because two minds are better than one, especially when those minds combine and they're on the same team for the same reason, to deliver the dream result. With the Beatles, we saw examples of completely different personalities. You know, the personality of Ringo Starr as compared to John Lennon. You could not have more differing personalities in any situation. And the way that they dealt with that is they trusted each other with what they believe was the talent, knowing that the other one was going to do their best. And if you're on a team with people who aren't willing to do their best, either get a different team or get them off of your team. It's a key ingredient. And when the Beatles, when they had that Fab Four chemistry, it was because each player was stepping forward, being themselves, being their best, but also pertaining to the vision between them. One key component that the Beatles had that we all have is they had a voice in their head telling them what could become. And their voice in their head was played by Brian Epstein, the manager, who really had the strong vision. But when Brian wasn't present, they still had the vision implanted in their head. They knew the idea that they all belonged to, and they could hear his voice. For you, it's your conscience. If you were ever excited about your idea and that excitement has faded, it doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It means that you've lost touch with what excited you. It's okay. Work the idea anyway and see if the completion of it is exciting. And if it's not, you throw that idea out. Paul McCartney was noted as saying that by the time they got to their third album, that he had written about 800 bad songs. You keep what comes from working that idea, what you learn from the failures, and you attach that to the overall idea that once tickled your soul, and you know it will again. So the Beatles had that voice in their head, and it did lead them to success. They had a physical reminder, a man who actually kept feeding them the encouragement, but you're going to have to do that yourself. You are going to be your own leader. And it's going to be a magnificent thing when you stick with that leader. And when you collaborate that way, you will rejuve energy towards your own ideas because you can see them grow. You can see what can come of your idea in correlation of another person's creativity. And then when you're by yourself, you're not just going to have an idea, you're going to have the idea and know how it can grow. And then you might find yourself dependent on collaboration to complete your ideas. This is a good thing. And that's where two minds are better than one, and it multiplies. It increases the creativity and the results exponentially compared to doing it yourself. We like to own our ideas. Don't limit your growth by stifling that growth. It can be hard to develop the attitude that's needed to carry these dreams forward, because there's no guarantee of success. But what there is a guarantee of involvement in who you are and what you're about, and growing and learning more about that to again move that forward. So if you're somebody who really struggles with your attitude about your vision, like me, the thing that I do, I have a stick-to-itness where I realize I'm on this planet once, as far as we know, and my ideas are what makes me unique. And if I want to experience that uniqueness, I have to work those ideas. I have to collaborate with other people. I have to keep the momentum going in whatever way that I can, even if it means long hours into the night and waking up early in the morning, because I'm the most important person I know, and I want to share that with the world. So your attitude is a use it or lose it thing. You've got to keep going and always be double checking it, knowing that the better that your attitude is, the more likely it is that you're going to get what you want out of life. And it seems that being fearless is one of the most important things about having strong faith. But what if you do have fear, like me? Fearing failure, fearing that your ideas won't work. I can tell you that you're not going to go through life fearless, but you can act as if you do. And back to the Beatles as an example. They had a lot to lose. They had a lot of hours and sweat invested in their endeavor. But they agreed that with the ideas that anything would go. If one of the members had a great idea, the others were there to support it, and they would take it all the way to the end. And through failing so much, he also learned that he had to have a lack of self-pity. And this is one thing that the Beatles shared in common that you can share too, and anybody on a team, is that lack of self-pity. We see it in sports, we see it in business, we see it in schools, that the person who steps forward and is their own hero and doesn't have a poor me attitude tends to rejuve the group. And when those people have it too, the chemistry flows, it ignites, it becomes explosive with creativity and work ethic. If you're lacking the faith that you feel like you need to pursue your ideas, and you do have the ideas, but usually most of us do have some kind of vision of something that we would rather have in life, or something that we wish we would have started in life so that we could pursue it. But if you lack that faith, of course, the most important thing is the stick-to-it attitude. Get to work and stay with it. But let's say that's not enough for you, that you need something more to hold on to. I would suggest writing down what are the possibilities with your small ideas and how they can grow. What would be that next step if that succeeded? And just think in terms of, what if this went well? And write down that next small thing that it could lead you to. And if it doesn't feel good when you think about it, perhaps you shouldn't have faith in that idea. That may not be the road to take. And you want to find the ones where you do get a tickle inside and you say, ooh, well, that would be cool to do that. And then figure out the few things that you need to do to make that happen. And if it becomes complicated and it's not just a few things that you need to do to make that happen, perhaps you shouldn't take that road. Find the things that are achievable. And you'll start to build a belief in yourself, your ability, and your ability to make decisions. And when you do that, you become your own leader, and you become an excellent follower for that leader. Now, if you're one of these people that really struggles with having faith in your ideas, and you just don't know what to do, generally you will quit. That's the easiest take on it, is to quit. But if there's something in you that knows that that's wrong, that you too want to live a better life, and you want to engage more in who you are, what you're about, and what your ideas can bring, the number one thing is to keep showing up. 80% of success is showing up. And the other 20% is paying attention to your failures and connecting with people and how to move those ideas forward. But if you really lack that faith, do the work anyway. A lot of the students that I have, they show up ready to quit. But because they showed up, they leave having enhanced their desire to play well. And the next week, they often come back a better player than they were. Imagine had they just quit. One of the best pieces of advice I can give anybody who's lacking faith, I use it, perhaps you can use it too, is feel the fear and do it anyway. There's a great book by Susan Jeffers that is called just that, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, where you just go ahead and you step up to the plate. And yes, you might fail, but who cares? Who cares if you fail? You do. Other people do not. And when you fail, you can learn if you're willing to step back up to the plate, feel the fear, and do it anyway. I hope this show has been inspiring to you, to let you know that you have ideas that are worth pursuing and that you're going to engage in the life that you want by pursuing them, and that you can overcome the very thing that's holding you back, and that is fear. In the next episode, we're going to address those fears, the fear of failure, fear of being cast out, fear of not playing the role that is expected of you, fear of loneliness that comes when your idea doesn't work, and the fear that you've wasted time on an idea that just wasn't worth pursuing. This is a very common fear. We're going to talk about that in depth, and we're going to provide solutions to overcoming it. It's going to push you to the next step in your life, and it's going to make your soul tickle because you're going to feel your ideas come alive. To be sure to get that episode, go to nobowtie.com/live and be the first one to get amazing solutions on facing your fears and pursuing your ideas and living the life that you want to live. Now, I'm going to go, and you should too, go listen to some Beatles and get inspired about risk-taking in your own life.